found that all-important document for your ancestor, but, well, that old handwriting leaves you wondering what it actually says. In this video, I'll be showing you the tips and the techniques I use to decipher that old handwriting and make sure we're not missing any of the clues of our ancestors in those documents. Hey there, if we haven't met before, I'm Lisa, genealogy author and researcher here at Are You My Cousin? This YouTube channel is dedicated to helping you find your ancestors, grow your family tree, and not get lost in the process. If that sounds like your cup of tea, you're in the right place. So let's get started looking at that handwriting. Reading old handwriting in genealogy documents can be difficult for a variety of reasons. Faded ink, poor penmanship, or just getting used to an unusual script. Add in maybe unfamiliar language and terms, and well, new to you, abbreviations, and well, your ancestor's document just got a lot more tedious to unravel. But don't panic, because with practice, you can become skilled and confident in reading these old documents. Now, the first technique that I use is I read the document out loud. Now, I realize this sounds very simple, and well, it is. Words may have been spelled differently, or they may have been spelled how they sounded to the writer. I find this to be especially true when I am deciphering old family letters, the writing in an old family Bible, and those more personal documents that someone might have. My great-grandmother, Esther Lee Richardson Talbot of Pittsylvania County, Virginia, corresponded regularly with her cousins in the early 1900s. And I am fortunate to have a collection of postcards of hers that came from her friends and cousins. However, let's just say, not all of those postcards are easy to read. Most were actually written in pencil. The penmanship, well, not so good. I think I know where I inherited my poor penmanship. And the spelling of the words was really quite inconsistent across the letters. Reading those postcards out loud and phonetically started to shed light on the meaning of those postcards. And it didn't take me too far into reading several of these when I had the same author to be able to pick up the pace, because I started to understand their style of writing. If you have ever struggled with reading old handwriting and documents for your ancestors, hit that like button and let me know that I am not the only one out here who struggles with that still at times. The next technique that you want to pay attention to is to really learn what the abbreviations mean in these documents. Now, abbreviations, we use abbreviations when we write today, and our ancestors did as well. You want to learn and understand what any of the abbreviations that you might find in a document actually means, because that can impact the meaning of the document. And a few examples might be et al., which means others. You might see the shortcut WIT, wit, and that usually stands for witnesses. You might find W/O, which means wife of, or you might find baptism being abbreviated BABT, or sometimes just a capital B. Two good resources to find common Latin abbreviations would be RootsWeb genealogical abbreviations, as well as Family Search's Latin genealogical word list. I will put the link to those in the description below. The next strategy would be to compare letters within the same document. If you have a troublesome word in a document and you're wondering, is that an A or is it really an O? Look for other known words in the document that might contain an A or an O and compare the two so that you can compare how that particular documenter, that particular clerk might make the individual letters, and you'll be able to then decipher what your questionable word actually is. You'll start to learn the handwriting style of the writer and be able to pick up on the peculiarities of their writing further on in the document. Now, here's a technique that I do quite a bit, and that is I scan the document, I create a JPEG file out of it, and then I upload it to a photo editing software. This is a particularly helpful technique for documents where the writing is very faded and it's difficult to actually determine what it says. The contrast between the writing and the paper is just so small, it's difficult to decipher. Once I have uploaded a JPEG copy of that document into a photo editing software, I am able to adjust brightness and contrast and then I can zoom in and zoom out, and it allows me to read that document easier. My go-to photo editing software for this is VividPix, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. So let me show you what this does. Take a look at this North Carolina Wake County road record. I found this in the state archives a number of years ago, and I took a digital photograph of it. Here's a close-up section of the bottom portion, which has the signers. I have a number of ancestors who were actually on this petition to get a new road established. But I wanted to make sure I could identify all of the signatures, and some were a little hard to read. So I uploaded the digital image of the document to VividPix. I was able to make slight adjustments to it in the contrast, in its brightness, and it was much easier to read. Really quite simple to do. Here's the finished document, and you can see how clear and crisp it came out. And better yet, I now have a nice clear copy of my ancestors' original signatures. Another technique that you can use is to have a sample alphabet in the handwriting for the time period that you're researching. If you're reading a 19th century document, seek out a copy of the alphabet for the 19th century. Simply perform a Google search for 19th century handwriting alphabet. Click on images in the menu bar and you'll have a variety of alphabets to choose from. Now you knew this one was coming, guys, and this technique is crucial to being able to read these old documents, and that is practice, practice, practice. Now, I know it's probably not what you want to hear, but there is no substitute for practice. It just works. I invite you to learn more about the genealogy research tools and strategies that I use. In the video on your screen, peek inside my genealogy research toolbox.